Right, now we'll go through the process of setting up the rest of the settings menu. So again, as I said earlier, you can do this from a mobile phone if you choose to. So there's my settings menu there. I can do the preferences, which we just looked at in the pay codes, or you can run it in full screen mode, which is obviously the preferred mode if you're doing a setup. So under my preferences, the other options I've got under here are departments. Now, every employee must have a department because it's a way that we group the employees together, and adding a department is pretty straightforward. We just go click on the add button, give it a name. So if I'm going to call it factory, and I'll call it factory, or whatever that is for you, whatever that means for you, but it might be factory 3, that might be factory in Auckland, if that's what means something to you, and we set that up. So again, bearing in mind that the naming convention that you use where this data is being used by an employee should be something that is meaningful for the employee. So that's setting up the departments. The department is really just used as a way of grouping the employees when we're doing reports. Cost centers are again something that the employees will have by default, and a cost center is also used when entering a timesheet if required so that we can allocate time to a particular cost center. Now, cost center is whatever that means to you, so it could be your branches, departments, clients. There's a number sequence that describes an area where some work is being done. So again, if I click on the add button for cost centers, I give it a name. So I might call this cost center where, warehouse 2. Now, the payroll code is important because if we are exporting the data to the payroll, then it is the number that your payroll expects when it gets data related to Warehouse 2. So this doesn't matter what you call it, but this could be W2, for example, if it's Warehouse 2 in your payroll or whatever the code is. So you need to speak to your payroll administrator when setting that up. And then the description, that would just be Warehouse in Wellington or whatever you want to call that. Then you can put that in there and then you can save that. So that's giving us some data now. So we've got 2 warehouses. We've got the warehouse and warehouse 2. Now again, things like naming conventions become important. The payroll code is very important if you are going to be exporting to payroll. You can use the cost centers without exporting to payroll. They don't have to be exported to your payroll system, but if they are, then you need to make sure those codes balance. So this is a one-off, as is with departments. Typically, you don't set these up on an ongoing basis. They are a one-off unless you're using the cost centers for jobs, in which case then you would need to be loading those into the system. Job numbers is similar to cost centers, or job codes are similar to cost centers. So in the job code, we have the ability to add a code. Now, in this case, we're using a lookup list of jobs. If you're using free text, then you don't need to add these. But if I'm using a lookup list, then the job is whatever it means to you. So that could be, for example, subfloor. If you were doing a building job and you give it a description, but it could be subfloor on the Jones house or whatever is meaningful to you. So these codes are so that when your employees are entering a timesheet and they say they are working in a particular area or doing a particular function, this is what they're doing. So they are describing either the client or the job, or it could be a particular process. It's whatever is meaningful to you. And if for clarifying this, if you need to, then you should speak to the Time Hub team. Our support team can give you some guidance around this. So once you've set up your jobs and your cost centers, the only other thing you need to do is if you have any users who are not employees, so you want other administrative users, then you can set up additional users. So I can go and add a user and I can determine whether they are an employee or an administrator. So there's 2 types of user, and I would put in their first name, last name, their fast pin if they're using the fast pin, which we'll talk about that a little bit later, their password, and whether we want to email the password to the user. So if I'm setting up a new user, I can then, when I hit save, if this box is ticked, that new user will be sent an email to telling them how to log into my timesheets, giving them the user code and password, and giving them some instructions on what to do when they do log in. So if it was for an employee, they get a video of how to enter their timesheets. If it was an admin, they get a video on basically what you're getting now, which shows them how to go in and access the different parts of the system. So that's your settings menu that covers all of the areas that we've got under settings. One other thing while I'm here, the other option you have up here is your My Profile button on the right hand side. The My Profile gives you the ability, if you wanted to change your email address and or your name. And again, you're not likely to change your name, but if it's been misspelled, then you can change that. You also have the ability up here to change your password. So you can come in here and change your password. If you forget your password, there is a reset password option when you are logging in. Obviously, you need to know the company number and you need to know your user code in order to do that, the user code being your email address, but you can reset your password if you wish to from here. In the next video, we will cover setting up an employee, but that covers all of the settings for you.